Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet, and today we have the legend, Olivia, on the show. Olivia needs no introduction. I'm sure you know who she is. So honored to have her make time for me and come on this podcast. And we had a really excellent chat. So that's coming up. What's been going on with me? I've been dealing with sales for holiday sales. You know, we had Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all that. So just been dealing with that, basically. Kind of boring, but there are sold out of the $55 mystery boxes, and there are still, as of Monday, when I'm recording this, there are 950 dollar boxes, 155, yeah, $155 boxes. There's 9 of them left, and there's one $500 box left. So if you want to get one, go to chetzar.bigcartel.com. Oh yeah, if you want to support the podcast, you go to patreon.com/darkartsociety, get your name read on the podcast, get a 20% discount code for our sponsor, Skull Shop, SkullShoppe. They made this wonderful skull. And if you join at the $5 and above level, you get a 20% discount code. And they're great people. What else is going on? Oh, yeah. No new subscribers this week. Otherwise, I would read their names off. I'm recording this late, so I'm kind of tired. I'm trying to, I've got a new goal of getting all of the podcast stuff done on Mondays. Get it all done in one day. That way, I'll have more time to work on everything else I got to get done. So before I go to sleep, I thought I'd record this intro and get the comp together and all that business. So that's why I'm a little low energy right now. But the interview's awesome. Olivia's amazing. And I was so honored to have her on here. I guess that's it. I'm going to keep it short. There's nothing really new to say. There's really not much going on. I put a bunch of all my paper prints, limited edition paper prints, on sale at chetzar.bigcartel.com as well. Am I missing anything? Patreon.com/darkartsociety. If you want to support my artwork, you can go to patreon.com/chetzar and join for as little as $1 as well. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I guess not. Anyway, what you really want to hear is the Olivia interview. So let's get on with it. Here we go. My interview with the legendary Olivia. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, Olivia.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming. I am so excited.
I'm excited to be here. What are we going to talk about?
Oh, all kinds of things. You are such a legend. You are such a legend. I can't believe that you hang out with us.
I'm hanging up right now. That's it.
I remember when I first saw you at Copro, I was like, that's the Olivia? I couldn't believe that you were mixing in with us bums.
Oh, almost all your shows.
I know.
You're forcing me.
It's just so,
and I love the people at Copro. It's like it's a family place to me, Erica and Gary.
yeah.
It's like where all my friends are, and I love the art. I don't really fit in. to a lot of the art, but I seem to be going in that direction in the dark, going over to the dark side. But I think I always had a touch of that to begin with.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think yeah, I think Copro is that kind of gallery too, where it's not, they kind of have a wide range of artwork, and it's like it's more about the artists in a way than about the art. It's like they have cool artists that are doing cool stuff, and if it's good and it's cool, then it all fits somehow. I don't know, you know.
Fit into a format that it's outlaw art.
Yeah, right. It is
And
kind of, yeah, it is similar in that way. They're related in that way, I guess.
I'm about to yell at Joe to stop washing the dishes.
I can't hear.
Dishes,
I can't hear him.
please stop.
I can't hear him. It's all right.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, everybody knows you. You're the legend. I known your work since I was a kid, and it's like I remember seeing your stuff and just what.
Live long enough, you become a legend just for living long enough.
But you were a legend back when you were showing your stuff on Playboy and Heavy Metal magazine and stuff. I mean, you were legendary back then, and so
I don't know why you think that, but okay, I'll take it.
you were legendary to us, art kids, at least.
Do you have kids?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But I mean, when I was a kid, you were
you were
legend.
a kid a long time ago, weren't you?
What's that?
You were a kid a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're close to my age.
I just turned 56.
Ah, okay. You're not close.
I can't tell how old you are because you're ageless. So
Well, thank you. I'm turning 75 this week.
no.
Great deal. So I'll have been in this business 50 years.
Wow.
I painted before that. I started at 25. I painted before that, but I wasn't committed. There was a lot of false starts and a lot of fucked upness in my, can I curse on this?
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of fucked upness and uh, a lot of waiting for inspiration.
Mhm.
And that's how I thought it had to be. So you have to start um, every 6 months, inspiration would happen, and you can't work like that. And
No.
it took a long, hard lesson in a couple of years. And I was living with somebody who was just obsessed doing art. That's all he could do. That's all he could think of. And it was an amazing mentor to see what it felt like to be that devoted that everything in your life had to do with your art. But I was still waitressing and not getting it. And then one day I had this huge attack, mental attack, a breakdown, an epiphany. And I started a process of working and starting to fight for myself. And that all happened at 25. It was like a thunderbolt. And it was the most amazing year of my life because I had never felt that alive
Wow.
before. It was, I just woke up
What?
and became obsessed and started drawing day and night. It was just an amazing process.
Do you know what? Do you know what caused it?
Ah, I don't know. Mid 20s. Fucking up so many times. Could I be that I finally got smart? Could it be that I was desperate and out of options? I was tired of doing Groundhog Day and a way of waking up and having the same problematic woman. And I always could draw. And I just knew that, it's just the weirdest thing. I can't tell you. It was like being dosed. Dose. I was went from somebody who was totally milk toast and all of a sudden I was out there pounding the pavement looking for work with a small portfolio, going to sex magazines because I knew that I could do that kind of drawing. At least I think so. I went into there and lied and then went home and tried to figure it out. That's how those years went. It was, and actually, it's funny because as I was saying that, I'm thinking right now I'm doing the same thing. 50 years later, I've taken on doing a graphic novel, and I don't know how to do that. So I'm looking forward, and I'm going to try my best. I'm going to do it. So, yeah, it's too complex to tell you what happened. There are too many factors, but I got there. And then I've been obsessed for 50 years.
That's
years. Fucking years. Yeah, it blows my mind.
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I remember, one thing you told me at the LA Art Fair. I think it was at the LA Art Fair. I thought was like, it really was like it stuck with me. It's one of those things you hear from a mentor or an artist who's more established than yourself. It's like I was, what was I was complaining about my back. I remember my back hurt, and you were like, "Oh, let me sit. You could sit in my chair." And I was like, "That's okay." And then I don't know. You were asking me maybe why my back hurt, and I was saying because I was working so much, and I was saying, when I get older and more successful, and I finally get enough money, I'll take a break then. And you were like, "It's never going to happen."
That's so funny.
And it's so true. And I'm like, she's probably right. It's just, this is how it was for my dad, who was a painter. It's like, it's not, it's going to be that way until I die, probably. It's just the way, it's the art life.
Work like me, and I think there's got to be a way we can break away, but I'm not good at that. I don't know how to. I keep clutching onto it. I think another part, going back to when I was 25 and started this, I think that a lot of the world, I just feel out of control. And the minute I move away from my art, I have no personality. I have no presence. I have no meaning, or I don't know. And I don't think I feel that way as much now. But when I first started, I felt like I'm fucked up so many ways in my life. The only thing that anchored me to the planet was working on paper. And it was the only way I could get control in an uncontrollable life.
Right.
And the more I worked, the more control I felt like I had. And also, there was this strange thing I remember when I was doing illustrations for the sex magazines. I remember having 5 of them, 5 published pieces of work, and I kept flipping through them, and it felt like I was flipping through some book of my life. It somehow made sense, and I wanted to see more and more. So it was one of a strange mental place where work was the only answer. I want to see more, and I'm still that way. I still want to see more, but I am also under the impression that you should travel. It expands the mind. It gives you the experiences, which I have none. And I've been to Europe a little, but like last time I was in Europe, it was 84. Japan was 94. And God, time is going by. I don't know if I'm going to be traveling. Have you been anywhere?
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is like I don't like to travel, but I do think everyone should travel. I think it's really important that everyone travels the world. But because I started off in the movie business, and so they would send me on set on location. So I like worked in China.
Wow.
I worked on a movie in Hawaii. Uh,
What were you doing?
I was doing special effects stuff, makeup effects, and creatures. What's that?
So perfect for you.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it was the painting is sort of an extension of what I used to do in the movie business for like 20 years. I was a sculptor, so, and creature designer and stuff. But so I was able to travel a lot. I went to Italy on a movie, and but I would have never have done it if I didn't have to for the job, you know. So I'm glad.
Too. If it's a job or a convention, that's the only way I get to see something. If I
Right.
have, doesn't seem to be for my own pleasure.
Yeah. I know. But later I ended up going to like the UK and Berlin,
How,
and
how is Berlin?
that was amazing.
Yeah.
We weren't there that long, but it was super cool. Yeah, because I had a show out there, and yeah, I remember me and my friend were walking down the street with the gallery owner, and at 3 a.m. and looking over our shoulders, like nervous. And she's like, "Why are you? What are you worried about?" It's like nobody mugs. People don't mug each other around here. It's not like that in Berlin.
Too.
What's that?
Yeah, we felt like that too.
Yeah,
They-
yeah. So I agree about traveling, but I don't want to travel. I know people. I am so happy making this shit. That's all I want to do, and I'm so satisfied.
Well, I get it, but there are places I think, I don't
Yeah.
know.
If I could just be there, I would love that. I just hate flying.
Yeah.
It's such a pain in the ass, especially now with all the, the lines they make you wait in and the TSA and all that shit. It's terrible. So okay. Before we get into other stuff, I want to know like your childhood, how you first started creating artwork. Like I'm sure you must have started when you were a little kid.
Yes. Didn't you?
Yes. I've had a couple artists on here though that didn't start until they were like 20. Really strange. Didn't do any drawing when they were a kid, but 98% of them started when they were like 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yeah, I ran into a really great artist, and I'm just blanking on her name right now. And it's like it seems like her art was so good. It seemed like it would take 2 lifetimes to get that good. And she said she started at like 30, 40. I was like, fuck. This is my side job. Being, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, no, all my life. So.
Yeah. Because I started drawing when I was little, and I was always dabbling, and I was always an art kid. And, but I didn't start oil painting until I was 33. But I had like all that background in sculpture, in the makeup effects, and painting with an airbrush and stuff for creature suits and stuff.
It's all art.
Yeah, it definitely. But the foundation was drawing.
Yeah, and it has everything to do with the way your art is now. And you
Mm-hmm.
need everything in there, and you need and your knowledge all these years, it shows. So, and everything I've done, even the dumbest work, I've learned something from.
Absolutely.
Good experiences, bad experiences, just the act of painting it, you're learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, just so you know, too, if I don't say anything and I'm only nodding my head, it's because when I talk, for some reason, it blocks out what you're saying. So I'm trying not to step on your lines at all.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you too. So
No,
okay.
no. It's on me. So I'm just so you know, I'm not being rude. I'm just kind of like, I don't want to, I don't want to mute you out.
I'm your friend. I know you're not rude. Not worried.
Well, I appreciate it.
Me. No problem.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's the other thing about you is that when I met you and we got to know each other through going to Velasco's parties and all this stuff, you and Joel are both so nice, and it's just such great energy people to be around. You just feel like positive. You radiate positive energy.
Thank you.
And not in a cheesy new agey way. It's like you're kind of real.
I'm so grateful I don't do that.
I really I love seeing you both. You're just great people. But okay, anyway, I just had to say that. So okay, childhood of drawing. Were you what kind of stuff? What kind of stuff were you drawing as a kid?
Well, I have to say, well, Barbie dolls didn't exist until I was 9 years old. So if you saw the beginning of the Barbie movie, it's like in the dark ages, all they gave you were dolls that were babies, so you can pretend to be taking care of a baby. And that's what I had. And what I drew was Barbie doll type of creatures, little stick figures that had boobs and a shape, because my mother looked like that. And my mother used to run around the house naked. And she was very voluptuous and very pretty and very vivacious human being, you know. And I think, she just influenced me so much. She would. Not only did I love seeing the old movies like Dietrich and, Catherine, I just blanked on her name, the old Monroe, all the old bombshells, independent, Catherine Hepburn, Betty Davis, all those women fascinated me. And then my mother would come around and imitate them terribly, just horrible. She didn't know. So these imitations really stuck with me because it was all, the sex was real and funny and Mae West. And so my mother would have a ball doing that. So that's who I drew probably most of my childhood. I always drew women, never into drawing horses or anything like that. And when I had my first job working in a department store when I was 17, I would take home people's pictures of their loved ones and draw portraits of them and give it to them. It used to make them so happy. So I started doing that. And then I went to New York. I went to visual arts. And I was so messed up from those years in my high school. And some shit happened. I didn't want, anyhow. I was sort of damaged from that. So it took. So I got lost in New York. It was Vietnam War times. I was there in 67, 68. And I think a lot of the school, the boys were like escaping being drafted, And so I didn't, it just wound up. I went to some classes and then I started fucking off and not showing up at many of them. And being loose in New York, and experience a Bohemian lifestyle in the Village.
Oh, that must have been so much fun.
Well,
in the summer of love, I mean, like right around that time.
It was that time, 69. I couldn't get to Woodstock, although Joe made it there.
Wow.
That's what I said. I was really pissed. They couldn't get it. They were telling you, don't come. And I was like, Mark. Stupid me. I listened to them. I didn't go. But I'm not sure I would have had a good time anyhow. So,
yeah.
But
what a time. That must have been an amazing time to be alive. Scary too, though, because of the war and everything. And the civil rights stuff going on,
and abortion rights, stuff like that. We fought for, we marched for, they were turbulent times, but they were fun. But I think that everybody always likes to romanticize those times. There's great times now,
right?
They're just very different. So
yeah. Don't you feel parallels right now with the 60s, with everything that's going on? Kind of.
Sure. It's the same dialogue.
Really?
The 40s all coming back.
Yeah.
And if you live your life, and I've been around 75 years, but you're also living your parents' life. And my parents were War II veterans. They were both in the Army and met there. And so you get the feeling of what it was like during those times, all the way back to the 20s. You have a little insight of what, years before you existed happened. So yeah, things keep coming around. People forget, young people forget. And here we are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a trip. It's like this, just the same thing. I remember my mother-in-law. I remember during the Bush era and the war in Iraq, and I was talking to my mother-in-law, and she didn't seem freaked out about everything. And
you get used to that. You get used to war.
yeah,
And coming around, and you said, well, I've seen this before at least 5 times.
yeah, and I guess her take was kind of like, it just swings back and forth. It keeps going back and forth. So it's like things are fucked up now, but they're going to come back, and it's just the way of the world.
The pendulum
Yeah,
swings, but you have to worry about it swinging so far
yeah,
back. I mean, and that's what everybody writes. It's what you have dystopia. It's what all the movies have. Said you've gone one step too far. You really fucked up the planet. Now we all have to live in it.
yeah.
You
You
know,
don't want to break the pendulum.
yeah. Or it seems like maybe the whole world degenerates over each time we get a blow. Each time the pendulum, it just keeps getting lower to the body until it gets to the bone.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it is scary. I'm trying to find a bright side to all the stuff that's going on somehow. It's because it's like, you know, it's happening all over the world too. That's the weird thing. Like Argentina just voted in a fascist guy, and there's a guy in that Orban dude in Poland, I think, or Hungary.
I tend to think of the beginning of, is it The Exorcist? The beginning of The Exorcist, which I haven't seen like in 40
Oh,
years.
you should see it. It's so good. I just watched
It
it recently. It's so good.
was a great movie.
Especially the beginning's amazing.
And the beginning is very much like what it feels like now. This was where they're over there, and people, the devil's raising, and it's just like
All this foreboding
all
stuff.
this stuff is happening all over, and
Yeah.
it's like that. Then now I have trouble trying to remember the peaceful times. I can't remember them.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you've definitely had some good times in your life. You've
Yeah,
done very well for yourself, and
thank you.
just okay. Sorry, I just want to kind of get your life story going, and then we can move on from there. So I want to know, like, you went to New York, you went to school, you got to live that Bohemian lifestyle. I had a friend of mine too who was telling me, that's when I first got clued into the idea that like maybe the hippie era wasn't as great as I thought it seemed like it would have been, because he was saying how scared he was of getting drafted, and everybody was really worried about that. And that's a scary thing. But anyway, so okay, you how did you start working once you got out of school? What was your first gig? Was that the sex magazines?
Let me step back for a second. So, yes, it was scary for the guys. For women, there was no birth control.
Oh yeah,
So, and every guy wanted to fuck.
yeah, yeah, right,
Birth control, and somehow guys didn't seem to be carrying around rubbers back then.
right.
And it was very free sex, but the women paid for it.
Yeah,
We don't have a trampoline in here. And just seems like that was setting you up for this idea that you could just do anything you want, which isn't,
Right.
there's some delicacies to the body that
Well, I
you,
mean, I I think the '70s showed what happened. It's like everybody I knew grew up from broken homes. Like it was normal that everyone was divorced when I was a kid. That was the norm. It was weird there was a parent stayed married, and it kind of came out of that whole. It's I don't know. The '70s were my perspective on the '70s was really weird. Being a little kid growing up in the '70s, it was like weird. It was weird and psychedelic to me because it was like everything was super syrupy sweet mixed with
really?
yeah, it was like all the stuff on the radio, AM radio I used to listen to was like so corny. And it's like, like the Carpenters and stuff were in the background of like all these broken homes. My brother and sister chasing each other with baseball bats and just total chaos in the house with like the Carpenters playing in the background. That's my memory of it. It's like this weird mix of broken homes and chaos and fathers that didn't live at home and all these really sweet love song pop '70s love songs that kind of it's like to me the '70s were like really creepy, but I think it's probably just my experience.
I was out of the house. I was an adult by then.
Yeah,
So,
so that must have
and
been pretty great for you then in the '70s.
New York was really exciting. I mean, I really felt my mother dumped me off at a YWCA in Uptown Manhattan, and it was a disgusting place. As I went into my room, and I don't know, do they still have YWCAs?
I they have. I know there's a YMCA in my town.
Know what it is.
Yeah.
And my room was like a prison cell and with a window. And I still remember opening that window and peeking out and just hearing the noise of the city was so intense. The whole thing just hummed and it had energy to it. And I was excited. And I looked down at the street and I saw a hooker and I saw, a pimp and I saw, it was just like real life was out there. And I got all excited. And I was not too far away from 42nd Street. So if I walked over there, you would see a whole scene. The marquees at that time were just porn hubs and peep shows, and you'd see the pimps, and the pimps had those cars that had little balls hanging all around. They were wearing Sly and the Family Stone type of clothing, with the big heels, and it was magnificent. It was just a visual overload. New York was just real life and it was exciting. It was dangerous. And I think somebody once said to me a couple of years in this, how did a cupcake like you survive in this city? Cupcake? I'm a tough broad. And they were still laughing at me. So that the woman was looking at me like, oh, I could squash you with my thumb.
Yeah, sounds. I mean, that's like the 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 uh, the dangerous era of New York. The New York,
Really did. And somehow I survived. Berkowitz was around killing people.
Oh my God.
And then I moved with a boyfriend to the Bowery. And I don't know if you know what the Bowery was like in 1969.
Maybe not. Bad.
Homeless, we're sleeping on the sidewalks and junkies, and it was Alphabet City, which was a whole junkie haven on the left, and Hell's Angels on the next block. And I was there, moved there, and I had no heat.
Oh my God.
So awful. An old flop house with no heat and mice everywhere.
Wow.
They ate the inside of my mattress out. I just remember, and I don't know how I survived that. But we were building what was to become CBGB's. I lived a block away from that, and I worked for Hilly. I don't know if you know the history of
Oh
CBG.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
He used to work for Hilly Crystal over on 9th Street in the Village, and he said, "Come on over. I'm building a place over on the Bowery." And so we moved to a loft there, and literally, he was an amazing human being. Literally hammered floorboards into Hilly's. There was a wood floorboard that led to the back where the music started to play. But it didn't become a place of music for a couple of years, and I had left already by that time. I had started my career, and I kept hearing about what was going on there. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna say, oh man, did you get to see the Ramones and all that stuff? But I guess you just missed it. You're a little too early.
but I went back a few times, and then I ran into Hilly, like, oh my God, in the 90s, and I couldn't believe he remembered me. I did a painting on the wall behind the third bar. When I saw that really horrible painting, he paid me in hamburgers. He was this really sweet guy. And, he supported the arts. He wanted to do something. If you talk to the musicians, they loved him because he gave them a place, which is what he wanted to do, which was a catalyst for a whole art
Mm-hmm.
movement. The place was a shithole, but it was their shithole.
Yeah.
It was an amazing time, and that's what's amazing about. There are special times in art world when you're like the 20s and 30s in Paris. If you read Hemingway's, oh my God, A Movable Feast. I was reading A Movable Feast when I was living in Soho. And in Soho, it was all artists. They were illegally moving into the lofts. And I moved there in like 1970. And during the day, it's all business, it's machinery and clothing. It's littering all over the place. If you're walking down the street as a woman, you're constantly getting hassled until you get to your loft building, and then you have to share the elevator and go up and hide out like everybody else. And it was a time. So I was reading the book. I've gone off on a tangent here. So you're reading a book about 1920s Paris art, where Dali and Picasso and all these people are hanging and drinking together, Kiki, and you think, oh my God, I'd do anything to be there.
Mm.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting in the middle of a place that did some kind of revolution, and it was one of those places that had that same kind of heat, artistic, because so many incredible artists came out of that whole thing, that whole Soho thing. So
Yeah.
you just never know where you are. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. And this is the place.
That I kind of think that you know, I think as painters we're kind of in a really amazing period right now that maybe we don't fully appreciate in a way, cuz I mean I think the stuff that the shows that we do and the stuff that the shows at Copro and just the art scene around LA and Chris Velasco's barbecues, these are amazing. We're in it, so it's like
Him barbecuing. I'm sorry.
he calls it a barbecue, but it's
Dad, I didn't see something lit up with him cooking weenies.
that's true. I think he did in the old ones, but
Okay.
he started getting them catered. But I think that you know I kind of take it for granted, but it's one of those things that artists in the future will hear about these amazing shows at Copro, these gatherings of these parties that Velasco used to throw, and like all these all
It's, it's a family.
yeah. But it is absolutely, and but it's also, you know, a lot of really amazing artists all inspiring each other. So I feel like there's that energy there. Especially, I feel like L.A. is the really the epicenter. I can't think of another, because New York is kind of like, I don't know, it's old establishment art, and it's just a not.
Yeah,
What's that?
there anymore.
Yeah, right.
The heat came out here. Um, I think also New York, what happened is that it became too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So artists had to leave. And so once they left, everybody else, it's an old story. They take off and they live these lives that become enviable for people who have money and they
Mm-hmm.
can. And so, I mean, I remember walking down Soho a good 20 years after I had lived there, and there was Prada, there was Chanel, and it just blew my mind. I said, I can't believe that they have made this into uh, Upper East Side. So everybody's out in Brooklyn. There's a large art community out in Brooklyn. They're scattered, Staten Island. But I think the same thing is out here. I think it's come out here. The money has come out here, and some of the big major museums. It's changed,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So, but it's
Yeah. I just feel like all the artwork I like is mostly centered in this area where we live. I don't know. It just, maybe I'm prejudiced, but I don't know. It seems like all the cool shit's happening here to me.
we know all the cool people.
We do.
I don't know. Um, the internet kind of. I don't know, I see people from all over the world.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I guess I'm thinking specifically the gallery scene. Um, it doesn't matter anyway. But I guess my overall point was like, I think we're living through that, especially with the internet too. We're living through one of those times right now where it's, like you're talking about the 20s when all these artists were hanging out. It's like this is kind of our version of that that's happening now. And I don't think most people can see it because we're in it and we're having to pay the bills and we're having to, deal with all the bullshit. And so you don't get to romanticize it until it's over and you're looking back on it like you were saying.
When you're old, you can say, "Oh my!" You forget the really bad stuff, like when you didn't have any heat.
Right.
Remembering it just seems more. I don't know. It just seems amazing. I think you just can't believe you lived through it
Right.
and survived as an artist through it. Yeah, no, it's amazing, but I feel like we've been really lucky that we've been able to paint, and
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
most important thing, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's like anybody who's a real artist will agree that that's the most important thing, is that we can just keep earning enough, at least enough to keep painting and keep creating work. That's the primary thing. Yeah, you had, okay, wait a minute. Okay. So I love these tangents we're going off on. I'm all about it. I'm curious about your career trajectory because, how do you get from a bohemian kid walking through junkies and pimps and stuff?
Watch what you say.
Well, just how did you get there from, doing these amazing pinups in Playboy? And I mean, I remember them from Playboy, from way back when I was a little kid, sneaking. My friend's dad used to have all these Playboys and we'd sneak them out. I remember them from back then, like the late 70s or early 80s, maybe. So I remember it from back then. And then I remember seeing your stuff on Heavy Metal magazine. So it's like, how did you do that? how did you get to that point?
Strange life for me. I'm an only child,
Okay.
and my parents were they had Playboy magazine in the house in the 50s.
So your parents must have been pretty liberal,
Yeah, they're
walking
liberal.
walking around naked and having Playboy and
Just my mother, because she was raised, my mother is Mexican
oh,
and
okay.
raised in Chino. Her mother died young, and so her and all her brothers and sisters didn't have a mother to take care of them. So they would just run around the house and do whatever they want. She has no problem with her body and to walk around like that. My father and me, we would take the bed sheets, we would take anything to be covered. It's amazing. Some people are so comfortable naked, and 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 some aren't. And I'm
Yeah.
never covered. And I'm never going to be comfortable with that. So, and it amazes me when I have my models and they walk in and they're just like naked in a second. I'm going, how does one do that?
I know.
I mean, I'm so envious of the fact that they're so free with their body and they're able to.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely with you on that. I'm more of the modest type. I've always been like that since I was a kid. But another, real quick, my dad, my biological dad was Mexican. So we got that Mexican blood in us.
Uh-huh.
Right on. Right on, sister.
I was raised back east, and my mother kept it pretty under wraps.
Mm-hmm.
My father was Italian, and so my mother wasn't. She didn't want to, prejudice. My mother was embarrassed about it, and so she would split it into, oh, I'm Spanish, I'm Indian.
That's what my mom did too. My mom did the same thing.
And so as a kid, I'm going, so what are you? And I said, I'm Italian, I'm French, I'm Indian. And I go, wow, that's so exotic.
Yeah.
And then as I grew older, or Mexican.
Yeah, right.
And, before my mother died, I did one of those tests, the DNA test, because she looked like Geronimo as she was near death. She looked like a really old Indian. And then I found out like 35% American Indian. I mean, I don't know if indigenous Indian.
Right. Wow.
It really shocked me she was that much, which made my grandmother. I started looking at my grandmother's pictures and realizing she was dark, And my grandfather was Spanish, so he was very blue-eyed and blonde-haired. So it's amazing to see the pictures of them all together.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't identify with any of it, the Mexican, the Italian. I identify as artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same thing, but I feel I'm very American because I'm a mutt of all. I've just got so many other things into it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my mom's side is like Irish, English, Scottish, and then my dad's like Mexican, French, and German, I think. So it's kind of
Combination. It's so far apart, and
yeah, yeah. It's a trip.
They got so attracted together, those two. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. It's totally a trip. Yeah. So anyway, okay. Can you hear that outside?
No.
Okay.
I'm just not answering any of your questions.
No, there's a garbage truck outside.
No, I can't hear it.
Okay. Good. Okay. So how did you get that career happening? Because you had
why was at art school? Okay, let me try to do that.
You don't have to go. If you don't want to talk about it too much, you don't have to. You could do a quick version, but I am curious how you got from there to where you are now. Really,
it only took 50 years, so don't worry. Describe all of it. to you.
Okay.
So I always drew, got into visual arts, thought I was going into fashion illustration. Then I became sort of a hippie, and just sort of fucked off and got lost during the school years and got lost in New York City world. So I wound up living. I painted, but every 6 months, like I said, and then I would look at them and say, well, I can really paint. What am I doing with this?
Right.
How do I start? Where do I go? Everything's been done already. And that was before the internet, before all the worlds, how many artists there are and how many great artists there were. I'm not sure I would have been able to start knowing that. If I saw all that coming at me on the screen, I think I'd be pretty flipped out.
Right.
I'm in the dark ages where it's just no phone, walking around the city, no money. And I eventually wind up down Soho living with Ted Stam. And he's actually his life is, he's dead, and he's now hanging in a museum. So his life wasn't long, but his career is going to be long. So I wound up doing painting, living with him in his loft in Soho, and doing paintings that were similar to his, not knowing what I really was doing, not understanding modern art. Was in school for it. You almost need a college certificate to really get that kind of artwork. And I understand, I appreciate it and love a lot of contemporary artists or minimal, whatever.
Right.
But do I understand it? No. And so even if I did a drawing or something like that, it's illustrative and looked down upon that time. Norman Rockwell was, to most of guys and most of people at that time, was like the most disgusting artist you can possibly imagine.
Crazy.
So as a woman, you could not really get very far in the art scene in the 70s, and up to 72, 73. I got in one show and was reviewed for it. And that show was actually kind of amazing because I wound up with some very, very important artists. And so I have a pamphlet.
How cool.
It was very cool, but it was brief because after that I couldn't go anywhere with it. I couldn't get a show. I didn't understand what I was doing. I was really imitating my boyfriend's work.
So you didn't have like your own style really yet? Is that what you mean?
No, but I was getting reviewed, and it's bizarre. I wound up in a magazine review and on a tour where they took all the best of the art show and toured it around the country. It's Larry Aldridge Museum. Anyhow, so that was my fine art career. So I was still waitressing through this and drinking heavily, staying out all night, partying, going to the Greenwich Village scene. And then I split up with my boyfriend, and I go sober. I stopped drinking. Didn't realize that I was like kind of hooked on the alcohol.
Oh, really?
My hair falling out a little bit and the shakes.
Damn.
Yeah. And I started disciplining myself. This is at age 25. And this is that whole transition.
Okay.
Tell you that I was possessed all of a sudden, that I was going to do something, and I was starting slow. I didn't just jump into like obsessive working. I just started a little bit, trying to discipline myself. And when you start committing like that, you start going over the line. It starts, well, I can do this and that. Then I went to, so where do I get work? I don't want to waitress anymore. So I went to the newsstands and looked around at the magazines. I mean, you figure you can draw. So where do you go? And so I looked at the magazines, and the place that I knew where I could draw well would be the sex magazine. They had some of the worst talent ever in them, unless you're talking Playboy. And Playboy wanted virgins. In other words, if you work for another sex magazine, if they wanted people with experience, but you couldn't get the experience without working for somebody else.
Right.
Virgin.
Catch-22, yeah.
22. So it took me until the 80s to get in Playboy.
Oh, okay.
But all of a sudden, my work, because I was actually as I was working, kind of got better and better and so I was getting in Swank magazine, and Club magazine gave me a double page. Who gives somebody who's had 2 years experience a double page?
Swank.
Swank and Club. I mean, honestly, it's like they had a deficit in illustrators.
Yeah.
Especially ones that could draw women. So, and then I got in Hustler and
working your way up.
And Penthouse was and Playboy. Penthouse became friends with Guccione. It was bizarre.
Wow, what a trip.
I'm told you this is a long life. I got a lot of stuff.
I love it.
And
so interesting.
There's too many stories to tell.
Yeah.
And around 85, the West Coast editor of Playboy came over to our apartment in New York City and said that Playboy Lillian Mueller had chosen my artwork, and she wanted to do a whole 15-page spread in Playboy.
Whoa.
And they were flying us out and put us up at the fabulous hotel. I forgot the name of it. And we got to watch a classic Playboy shoot with one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Wow.
Fascinating.
It must have been amazing to come out to where just coming out and being treated like that and saying, oh, you're going to get a 15-page spread.
Yeah, well, I mean, it had my artwork, but then it had her wearing. They hired people to imitate the lingerie that I had created on those pieces.
Oh, wow.
On the cover. It was amazing. And then they took me up to the Playboy Mansion, and I got to meet Hef and see stuff it was really wild. I mean, you got to realize I was brought up with Playboy magazine.
Right.
And it was pretty fabulous. And so somehow over the year or so, we got invited to Playboy to be one of the regulars up there. When then we moved out here, it's a lot. It's hard to figure out all the time. And then we wound up spending 30 years going up there. And my artwork was used for the invitations of the big. And we would get invited to the parties. So, and then I had shows. I had big shows out here. What was the question?
Oh, I was just you're doing it. I'm just curious, like how your career trajectory, basically.
I was doing shows, and Tamara Bain Gallery on Melrose in the late 80s. And I kept doing shows. Every year and a half, I would have to produce a all one-woman show. So, I mean, I constantly pounded out artwork like crazy.
Were your sales of your originals good because of all the exposure in Playboy?
They were good. I mean, Playboy had nothing to do with that, except for one thing. I have to say that we did have some of the guest lists, when we sent out our invitations, and a lot of Playboy people did come to it. But the shows were pretty successful and a lot of fun when they first started. So, oh God, I'm exhausted. I'm sorry, it hurt my head thinking about all those years.
Have you thought about writing your memoirs?
Yeah, I think I'm passing by it. I spent most of my life behind a desk. How interesting is that?
Yeah, you should write. You should write a book. You should write your memoirs. Seriously.
I haven't got time. And plus, I want to do so much
I
else.
know, I know,
Time suck.
I
That
know. I don't know. I don't know. It'd be so interesting. I would read it.
many interesting stories out there. Much more.
I don't know. You know, when that guy did that documentary about me, I told him, I was like,
See that?
"Oh, you haven't seen it?
Oh, where is it?
Oh,
Where?
it's on Tubi for free now. You know, Tubi.com.
Okay,
It's called Chet Zar. I like to paint monsters. It's really good. You'll like it.
check it out.
But I'll send you a link after. But I told him, I was like, you can make a documentary about me, but it's gonna be boring, because I was just thinking, you know, my life's been boring, and and then after we did it, as it was happening, I was like, wow, my life has actually been really interesting and kind of weird, and it's really having that experience makes you realize what how much crazy weird shit happens to you. You
No,
know,
no, I feel the same way.
someone needs to make a documentary about you if you're not going to write your memoirs.
Here's the problem: when you're dealing with sex and you're a woman, they're just going to bring up. It's just going to be salacious,
Yeah,
and
you got to get the right person to do it.
yeah, Scorsese's busy though.
You need a female director.
I don't know. I don't know because I was around the time that a female director directed the Betty Page movie, and I got to see Hef had a showing at his house at his mansion, um, and invited Betty Page and this woman, and it was a non-authorized uh, movie. And I remember they're sitting next to each other, and we were right behind them. And halfway through the, or actually 10 minutes into the movie, Betty's getting angry.
Oh, really?
Oh, these are lies, lies, all lies. And the woman, it started getting bad. And the woman who directed the movie got up and started moving away from her because she was
Wow.
in danger. But I have to think, her life in 90 minutes and some horrible points are in there. Would you like somebody to make up shit
Oh,
about you
yeah.
there? And I felt so bad for her. She left the place crying.
What a shame.
It was horrible. It was horrible to see. So yeah, no, I'm not anxious to let somebody,
I
even a
that
woman, take care of it.
that well, okay. The deal was like with this movie, I was like, you know, I have to have the final say over it because it's like I don't want it to be. I for one thing, I don't want my name on something that's not good. But I also don't want, you know, I wouldn't want someone to do something like that. Not that he would have done that, but you know, I wouldn't let somebody do that, you know.
It happened.
Yeah, you just need the right, you need the right person. I don't know.
Neither do I. And I don't care about it. I don't have time for a mem. I'm trying to get a graphic novel done. I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, my reason for living is to keep doing, just get someplace. I'm not happy with the work, and I get someplace, do some relevant work or what. I'm not even sure if the word relevant should be in it. I just want to keep working. I want to keep getting better.
Mm.
And so I'm kind of, because I've had such a long career and I've offered all these, I'm offered chances to do something like this. Dark Horse is going to publish it, which
Yeah.
if I was a young girl, I don't know if that would be so easy to get. So, I feel like I've got, a leg up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. It's so cool that you're doing a graphic novel. Oh my God.
Hey,
It's so cool.
we'll see.
It's going to be cool. It's going to be great. Are you like doing all of the panels, like drawing all of the panels, or you have help for that? Because a lot of times.
Say that.
What?
Funny you should say that. Well, at first we haven't even told Dark Horse this yet. That I'm starting to. I'm doing it's called blocking.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it, but it's like 4 comic books, make a graphic novel. So we're working on the first comic book, which is 36 pages. And so I'm 24 pages in, and I thought 24 pages was going to be it, but now it's 36. And so now I'm trying to get on that. And I'm hoping so I'm going to start the final. I'm going to try to do the best I can. And hopefully, well, maybe 3-4 months, maybe 5 months, we'll have a comic book.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. And then we have 3 more to do.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's really a challenge. Am I enjoying it? There's some things I just don't understand or don't know. And I'm not a writer, but I'm doing some of the writing. And I have Martin Meunier, who is the man who created that chair that she sits in. He also won an Technical Academy Award for Coraline.
Oh, wow.
And he's really, and he's, one of our best friends. So me, Joel, and Martin are in this getting out the story, and as I'm drawing it, it somehow comes more real. It's interesting because this is the first time in my career where I've got one of my characters make it to sculpt, which I sculpted. And
okay, yeah, I have to ask you about that. You sculpted that thing.
Yeah, not the bottom.
You sculpted the figure?
The figure I sculpted. I had a lot of help. This is my first help.
That's amazing.
But I had a lot of help, but it took me 6 months, and nobody believed I could do it. And I killed myself, but it's definitely my work. And I've just finished another one. And I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be doing these things because it takes too much time. And they're getting easier. And I do have fun doing it. It's fascinating to turn the object around and see it in 3D. I haven't got the hand strength to sculpt anything, so by hand. So that's ZBrush.
So you learned ZBrush to do that?
Yes.
I
don't know everything about it. I have somebody who sits there every once in a while, comes in now. He's my right-hand man who comes in, and I have technical problem where I can't figure out the numbers and what am I doing wrong. I get stuck, and he comes in and helps me. But I'm sculpting.
That's amazing.
And when I finally see it in this, in this condition, all of this iteration of art, then we introduced it to Mike Richardson of Dark Horse, and Joel set that whole thing up and said we'd like to do a story, and he said do it. And then we had a setup with him, a Zoom meeting with him. We read him the story, and he said, well, let's move on. So that's what I'm doing now. It's interesting because she's really coming alive, to do a pun. But all of a sudden she's visually, you can walk around her, but now she's got a life and a history, and it's really fun.
It seems like it'd be so fun. It's
scary too, because you don't know if you're going in the right direction. Do we kill off this person?
Yeah.
No, not that.
Yeah.
We're going to make mistakes, a lot of mistakes, but you got to do it. If you start holding back and you don't do it, That's the mistake.
Yeah, I know. That's I've told you before. I think that's what I wanted. I want to do maybe next for my next big project is a comic based on the dystopia book.
Well, I mean, I was just looking through the dystopia book. I mean, you've got
It's
a
all
lot there.
yeah.
So you need to either animate them or get them. Yeah, no, you've got it there in dystopia.
That was the idea for the book. Is kind of like this is the guidebook to do whatever comic books or animated animations or whatever. So yeah, I'm excited about it, but it is kind of scary. The idea is kind of scary.
Well, you just gotta start.
I know.
Where are you gonna go with it? Maybe it helps if you pitch it somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to keep the rights to everything. That's the main thing. Because I was gonna do a comic book before. I forget who it was for. With a
Horse. Dark Horse lets you keep your right.
oh really? That's
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Hmm.
maybe you though, because you're Olivia.
Oh no, I think that's true of most of the people do comic books at Dark Horse.
Huh? Because I know the place that we were. I forget if it was IDW or, but I don't know. I took it to my contract lawyer, and he's like, "You don't want to do this. This is
No,
you're just giving all your rights away to this your whole life's work here." And I was like, "Okay." So I got kind of cold feet with it, but
yeah, no, there's places that will definitely, and you have to spend money on the lawyer. Yeah, too many
absolutely.
getting fucked over. I was just reading The Blab and Ryan Heshka's story on the Superman.
Hmm. I didn't. I just had him on the podcast. He didn't talk about that.
Well, I mean, it's they got screwed. The people who made the two guys that made Superman
Oh, right.
got screwed out of everything.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can imagine. Joel fights for me on things like that. With Playboy, Playboy was the same. Vargas, we met Vargas, 45 years ago, and he told us the story. He loved Hef, but Hef owned Vargas paintings after he painted them. And Joel saw to it that, and Hef agreed to it that I kept the rights to my paintings and kept the paintings, and that's how we make a living. That's what we're selling today and keep me in my old age. You
Yeah.
know,
That's so cool. That was smart.
not my doing. Could have done dumb stuff, but yeah, yeah. So look around for somebody who will give you your rights. I think Dark Horse is one of those companies.
Mm.
Um, I I just tried working, and I just tried to get another company with some of my artwork. I don't want to say who, but they gave me a contract, which is basically work for hire, and they can do whatever the fuck they want with your artwork. And it's like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. No. That's why I just did the book is all the dystopia book is all just completely on my own.
It's set up. It's set
I
up.
know.
It's a precursor to wherever the fuck you're going.
Yep. And I've got a
Haven't started yet.
I know. I've got the story though from I have the story. There is a story there that I have.
Written down.
It's in my head. I mean, I know the basic who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, what are they doing, what are their motivations and all that stuff. I just have to write it down, but I'm trying to get I've been saying this on the podcast forever for the last couple of years that trying to get I got commission work I got a painting I owe Chris Velasco from like 5 years ago. It's like I got all these commissions I got to get done, so I'm trying to get them done by the end of this year so I could start on that, and then I got to show at Copro next year too. So we'll see. It'll happen.
Wait. You have a show at Copro every year.
Yeah, except this year I took off so I could get this commission stuff done.
You're gonna have to sacrifice something.
I know.
Gary's going, no, no.
I have to do it this year because it took me like 5 years for him to get me to take a year off. But
So what do you do when you're off?
I've just been working on these commissions, and it's like everything I normally, because what happens is like I've got my web sales and my prints and all my,
Yeah.
making new prints and sculptures and stuff, and
Mhm.
releasing those and just making a living that way. And then I would always have a solo show come up, and then I ended up I'd wait till the last minute, not because I want to, but because I have to keep making money. So then I end up painting everything in 3 months, and for the solo show, and then for that 3 months, everything gets derailed, all the progress I made in the commissions and stuff. So I took a year off this year so I could get caught up on that stuff, and I didn't really. I got some of it done. I'm trying to, it's a lot of work.
Why I don't take on commissions no
Yeah.
more anymore, because commissions, well, your commissions aren't like mine, but they don't go anywhere. I can't own the artwork. They belong to somebody. It's somebody else's concept, or it's
Yeah.
a portrait of somebody else. And what am I going to do with that? So it's that amount of time is like lost,
That's true.
and yeah, you have to cut down on the commission work, but that's like cutting down your food.
I know. I mean, I normally only do commissions of things that I can own the rights to and continue to sell on my own.
Yeah.
Except for there's a couple portraits that I have to do. That That's a good point. That's a good point. It's like you kind of have to be choosy so that everything you're doing you can put towards your future. So I hear
Well,
you.
it becomes apparent when the opportunity is there. So you've got this book, Dystopia. It's a beautiful book,
Thank you.
but it's promising for something else to come out. I mean, it's just begging for
I
something.
know. I know.
And so
I'll do
you,
it.
you're gonna have to put that bolt up your ass and going to check out maybe where you could, maybe if you pitched a story to a few people, protected yourself with the story,
Yeah.
where it goes, then you have some idea, and then maybe somebody will say, well, do it with us. I don't know, but you have to start,
I
and then you
know.
think about it, because I can't read it between your eyebrows.
I know. I know. That was the plan was I was going to at least start on it next year. I have to get through the holidays now because I got all these. Huh?
Next month, 2 months from now, you're going to start.
Well,
Watch out when I see you at Chris's party. I'm going to.
I'll have to have some pages done for you.
You better not show up, say doing nothing.
I know. Now you're going to hassle me.
And then I found out that you and I have a show that we love together.
Oh,
Project Runway. How odd is that?
Project
You're
Runway.
crazy. Yeah.
I always tell people that, or I used to back before Tim Gunn left, is when I was like really. That's when I was really watching it. Like I've seen every season, and I would tell people that, and I would get people just like tease me. But I keep telling them it's like you have to watch it. It's so interesting, and it's not just it's not like most of these dumb reality shows. It's really creative, and it got me interested. I never gave a shit about fashion at all until I saw that show and learned how to understand it really. Because the idea, I never thought about something fabric flowing is interesting to look at, or textures and colors. I just never thought about it because I just wear black.
It's it's one of the most incredible arts,
Yeah, it's
you
amazing. I
know.
get it
And
now.
yeah, I keep watching it, hoping I will learn, and I don't. Doesn't seem to filter down to me. Somehow it's just like time to draw something or think of something. I can't come up with what those kids do. So I mean, so their particular art is in designing and understanding and where knowing where the history is. But what I find fascinating about the show is because I'm watching like the higher up ones, the ones that have won previous, the all stars.
Right.
So so they have experience, and the thing that is really clear to me is what a mind game it all is that it's interesting to watch people fuck themselves up,
Mm-hmm.
and these are really capable people, and it's fascinating because their time limit is so shrunk down. They're not giving you more than a day to create something, and these people, they're used to it, and some people just totally freeze, and I've done all those things,
Right.
really relate.
Yep.
You'll do that, some of that stuff, but you're doing it now, and it's just fascinating to watch on screen.
Yeah, I found that I relate to a lot of it
Yeah,
with my own artwork, my own career, just being in those situations. Um, that's what I really do enjoy, the kind of the art of it, seeing artwork being created in that way. And it's like I'm the most surprised person to think that I would like that show, but it was,
I was very shocked that you and I were at the party and go, "Wow, we love it."
we love Project Runway.
And everybody started moving away, and stepping back.
It's just
Thought less of us.
it's like if you people that don't like it haven't watched it. That's what I think. It's really interesting. You have to have an open mind and watch a few episodes. And
It takes a while.
yeah, and you gotta like overlook there's certain cheesy production aspects that all TV has, but get past that and get to the real stuff. And it is really interesting, and it's really about creativity
It
and
is. It's process,
mm,
creativity, and time management. It's
mhm.
a yeah, and how many ways you mentally fuck yourself up
Yeah.
or you fight. Yeah, I find it fascinating. And just like the work in clothing, I keep hoping some of it, is getting in there. And I imagine, some of it is
Yeah.
amazing. Don't forget, I'm painting mostly nude women, and I need a few things on them. So, you know,
Yeah, and you had that interest in, you wanted to get going to fashion design, right? Early on.
yeah, and I mean the choices you make in life. I remember I had a to go to FIT, which was a fashion institute of technology in New York City. And then I had the other choice was visual arts. So I went to see I went to Fashion Institute to take a look at it. And there were all these really pretty girls wearing mini skirts. You could see their fluffy little panties underneath. They were also styled, and I got intimidated by them. And then I went to visual arts and I saw a bunch of like hippie kids looking creatures, and somehow I decided that was home for me. Good there. But I don't know if that was a smart choice. You know what I mean?
I
Because
don't.
you dated, why would you back off? It seems in retrospect. I'm glad it didn't happen, but
Yeah. I don't know. I think I don't know. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. But having a career like yours and a body of work like yours, you can't deny that. And that seems like you made the right choice to me when you see that everything you've done, and it's incredible.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Years years go by.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, the thing that amazes me is that I never saw a world where all my crappy art would show up on the internet.
What are you talking about, your crappy art?
Thing is that when you're creating art, 70s, 80s, early 90s, you paint, you make a, to make some good paintings, you have to make a lot of crappy paintings along the way. So, you bury them, say, no one's ever going to see that. Yay. Now there's the internet. Now I go up there and I go, oh, this is horrible.
I've never seen a crappy piece of yours, so
I die. I die. I just can't believe it.
I know I recently went through all my artwork from when I first started for some reason. I think maybe when I was making the book. And man, I was like, oh man, I should never have put that one out. I should have never put that online. There's a bunch of them that I thought at the time were pretty good. And looking back, I'm like, no, I wouldn't, that would not pass muster nowadays, you know?
It's exactly that's what I mean.
I don't know. I'd be curious to see what you consider a crappy painting of yours, though. I bet you it's not crappy.
I was taught by Joel not to point that out.
Okay. I know
I
we're
did.
we're getting late, but I have to ask you. I have to ask you. You use an airbrush a lot. I mean, is that like your prime?
Things.
What?
Not as much as everyone thinks.
Yeah, because I was watching some videos of your time lapses, and I didn't see any airbrushing, but you do use airbrushing. You do airbrush sometimes.
So I think what really bothered me about the word airbrush is that everybody assumes that people who don't know art at all assumes that it all comes out of an airbrush. Airbrush is like
Airbrush is hard.
it's um everybody finds it a cheating thing to do, but
Yeah.
just like people are talking about AI and all opaque projectors. Doesn't matter how you get your artwork done. So you're doing it, you get your art done.
All right.
It's yours. So what I work in is mostly handwork. And airbrush comes in. Some pieces are more airbrushed than others, but it comes in the end and it polishes the piece.
Hmm.
It adds another dimension to it and it brings it to life. But most of the work, if you see my works in progress on Instagram, you'll see that most of it's watercolor washes.
Yeah.
The process over the last 50 years that I learned from a little paragraph in the Vargas book, that you just put glazes of washes over and over again. And then the airbrush at the end comes in and finishes it off.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I saw. I saw. I was kind of shocked because I'd always just heard that you were like an airbrush artist. That was just like something that gets said.
I know, and I'm not an. The airbrush I use is a Pash AB.
Oh wow, okay.
And it works. And when I first started, I bought the wrong one, and I bought it for a left-handed, which means it works. Where the paint comes out is an inch over to the left, over the left, this is right-handed,
Mm-hmm.
and left-handed one. I was working with it over here, so it did take years. I got one in like 79. I was painting fine without it. But as you get along, Joel bought me an opaque projector, a Lucy, because sometimes I would draw something to be in a little square box and spend hours on it and be the wrong size and it needed to move over.
Yeah.
I learned all kinds. I mean, everything is a process. I learned how to draw from the Lucy and then constantly redraw it through tracing paper, reverse it, and put it down on it. And that's how, and center it correctly. Yeah, that's cheating.
Yeah. No, my
asshole that says that.
Yeah, no. My dad, he would use tracing paper. He had like a big. It was a shame when he died. I had to. We just had to leave it on the street because it's like, what can you do with this thing? But it was like one of those. It was probably 6 foot tall, like a light table, and you had these like cranks that would it would enlarge the image, like it would project it.
In the basement,
You
but I
have
don't
one?
use it anymore.
Yeah, it's like they're useless, but he was using that his whole life, like up until he died. He just that's how he did it, and he would trace it, tracing paper, transfer to the masonite, and that's how he painted. So I grew up around that. I never saw it as cheating at all.
I know that. And then you would take something else and put it in there, and then draw it on the trace. Keep drawing it on tracing paper over and over again. I mean,
Yeah.
this is from my comic book, but I've got scribbles like you cannot believe. It almost looks like a alien language.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this shit. Figure that.
Wow.
So, and then I have to constantly put it under, um, um, it's what your father did.
Yeah.
Tracing paper, redraw it until something clicks in, and then you get reference. You throw it all in there.
Yep. Do you sell those?
No, these are throwaway.
You should sell those.
I think we sell some of them. I don't know. Joel is saving them like they're gold.
You should. They are gold. They're money. They're money. It's like every
What is that?
that it doesn't matter.
What's going on there? I'm showing you part of it. You won't be able to tell, but it's fun. I'm having fun.
I'm glad. I'm glad. But I mean, any of those tracings, those are like you got to think like I would buy it an Olivia tracing even if I couldn't tell what it was. Just because it's like it's an original tracing. It's historic. It's amazing.
Like buying the Picasso and hanging it upside down.
But you know what I mean? It's like all of these artifacts from the from the art making process are potential ways to make money. I've sold envelope thumbnail sketches on eBay. It's like stuff that I wrote in an envelope that was like, oh, that turned into a kind of a famous painting for me and in my body of work. And it's like people buy that stuff, and they're happy to own it.
In some way, it's more fascinating because I am a big believer in thumbnail sketches or doodles, I call them.
Mm-hmm.
In a few quick, in your back of your mind, few doodles, you get the whole action down in a few lines. And the trick is to get that action feeling into your painting.
Right.
As what happens, and you see it on Project Runway, don't you? Where they start picking up and they'll add a little tissue box over here.
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden it's fucked up.
Yeah.
To bring that drawing back in, you have to think, what was this and what the hell did it become?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Sometimes, though, when you go from here all the way to the end and it doesn't bounce back and forth in the head, the self-doubt, all that, and it comes out magic in a couple of days or something like, it's an opiate. You go, oh, this feels good. And you spend most of your life trying to get back there.
Yep. Yeah. It is like, I mean, it does feel, art making to me really does feel like an addiction, and it feels like a drug too. Cause it's like, if you don't get your time in, you feel irritable and cranky, but and then when you nail it and you make an amazing piece, it's like such a high.
Great. It's such a great high.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it's it. Man, what was I gonna say? I had such a good question, but I forgot. It's gone.
No.
I hate when that happens. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Uh, I've had like I've had doodles and studies that I've painted, and I wasn't able to capture it on the big painting, and
I
that is so frustrating. Like
have
I like the little study better than I like the final painting. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's happened enough to where it's terrible.
happens a lot to me.
Really?
Frustrates me. Yeah. It frustrates me that at 50 years in, I still wind up in a Groundhog's Day where I pick up and battle the same painting and not see where it goes to.
Yeah.
And better 5 iterations before I finally gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it never goes away. It's just the way it is.
Away, I guess for some people, I don't know. I think that there's probably some learning disabilities or some kind of deficit going on in here that doesn't learn. I, these are my uh, strange clicks, and I think everybody's got them, and some lucky people are just like from point A to point B. It's done, and
Yeah.
it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah, but that's I think partially because you can never you're the only person that can't see your work that in a way that everyone else sees it. Like everyone else sees your work for the first time and they're like, "Whoa," they see the final piece. But you see it as the artist as it's being developed, so you can never have you can never have that a real like perspective on it because
Yeah.
you watched it be born. It's like it's so weird. We are the only ones that can't see our artwork correctly in a way because we've watched them happen, or we can't see them from a fresh
We can't
perspective.
sing, but we do know our way, and
Mm.
and as we're going through it, we're going, I'll have my way, or else I'm my way. The high at the beginning, my favorite is when I finally get something down on paper and I'm blissfully starting to paint. Oh,
Oh, it's the
so
best.
the best. And then there comes a point where the problems start. Bah, becomes all problem solving.
Yep, it's painful.
You paint around it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna leave that difficult part alone till the end. I don't want
Hands there that are just like,
to. Yeah, but that's why you gotta love it. You gotta love it because it's not easy to do, and it takes a lot of work, and a lot of it's painful. So you have to really love what you're doing in order to
and
get,
you do it.
you
So
know. Well, I could keep going on forever, but I know that I've gone past my allotted time with you. But hopefully, you will come on the show again sometime because I didn't get to ask you a lot of what I wanted to talk to you about. So maybe you could come on again sometime.
now I'm curious what the hell you wanted to ask about.
Oh well, I wanted to ask about your time in the I don't know in the '80s when you had like a mansion and all these collectible stuff you were telling me about. Didn't you have like Dorothy's shoes from the Wizard of Oz or something?
No,
You didn't.
mansion in the 80s. I had a mansion in 2000.
Oh, in 2000. Oh, okay.
Built it from scratch.
Yeah, you built your own mansion. Didn't you have all these movie collectibles like Marilyn Monroe's dresses and
Got the wrong person. What we had though was a Gemini spacesuit from 1963.
okay, well that's pretty amazing.
Didn't expect that, and it had a pretty great story, but it's very long.
Okay.
It's a great story. It has to do with Playboy too, and Hugh Hefner and a man on the moon. So I'll put that in there, and I'll tell you. No, it was a Gemini spacesuit, a real one.
Wow.
It didn't fly into outer space. It was a test. That's why we were allowed to have it. Otherwise, you're not allowed to own such a thing.
Wow. That's cool.
Smithsonian knew where it was, but they were like, "We've got enough of them. I don't need to take care of another."
Really?
Uh, Sold it a couple of years ago. We live in the fire section and everything burns. So,
Yeah.
but that no, I didn't have collectibles like Marilyn Monroe's. We had collectibles, maybe sex collectibles or something like that, like statues where the skirt goes up, bronzes and stuff like that.
God, I remember. I don't know where I heard that. I thought it was you. I thought you told me that.
Well, I might have told you that. No, Betty Page shoes, if that's what you
Oh,
mean.
okay. Maybe that was it.
And yeah, no, I'm trying to think of what else. Joel has a fetish, not a fetish. He has an erotica collection of photographs, stereo photographs from 1800s,
Oh, wow.
nudes, and all the way to the 50s. And he constantly it works on that. And some of them are so beautiful. They're stereo.
Yeah, those are really cool. I've seen those.
Really cool. Yeah.
Those are amazing.
You ever out here? Well, we're moving into town hopefully soon.
Oh, really?
I don't know where. Don't ask.
Okay.
I'm going, but we have to leave.
Okay. Well, I do want to come and visit you sometime. I would love to do that. But maybe when you're in your new place.
Well, you can do it now, but places we're far. I'm not going to say where.
Yeah, I know where you are far. But
No one visits us. Yeah,
yeah, I know. I know someone else. I know a couple of people that out that way and I never get to see them because they're always out that way.
no one comes up. And people say, "Oh, I'm going to come visit." I said, "Sure, you are."
And I'm out far, the other way. I'm out east in Monrovia, so it's like that's far from LA even.
Yeah,
So I'm extra far.
in the middle of LA, somewhere near my doctor's. As I'm getting fucking old.
You sure don't look it. I wish I knew your secret.
Sometimes I feel that you juggle it. You live with an ice pack and you keep on working.
It's the art.
Next time I'll tell you my spacesuit story.
Oh, yes.
That was fun.
I have a lot of things. So hopefully you will come on again.
Write them down. Don't put them in your logbook between here is where your other book is.
I'll write them down next time. I will come with a list of questions.
Okay. It's fun talking to you. I love you and it's fabulous.
Oh, thank yeah, you're the best. I love you. I love Joel. You guys are great. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's just like, amazing that you would, again, it's amazing that you even hang out with any of us. It's amazing that you would come on this podcast.
Don't make me come over there.
You're the legend. Come on. You're Olivia.
Hell.
We're just peons compared.
Oh my God.
We're living. No, we're in your shadow. You're epic. Anyway, okay. That's enough.
Don't mind. All right.
Well, okay. So just the last thing we got to do is just have to say goodbye to the audience. You just have to say goodbye.
Adios, muchacho.